Welcome back to Creepshow, your go-to channel for true crime tales and spine-chilling stories. Today, we're delving into the dark and disturbing world of landlords who took matters into their own hands with deadly consequences. From disputes over rent to personal vendettas, these 10 cases reveal the terrifying extremes some landlords went to. Viewer discretion is advised, as the following stories are not for the faint of heart. Stay with us as we uncover the chilling details of these landlord-tenant relationships that ended in murder. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a tale from the shadows. One common component of a landlord's problems with their tenants is unpaid rent. But what could be so horrible that the landlord felt compelled to murder the tenant? These killer landlords, or in some cases the police or prosecutors, not only blamed unpaid rent, but also said that the property owners had killed tenants due to careless snow plowing, wild parties, extramarital affairs, drug usage, and threats of death. It goes without saying that such killings are wrong, regardless of the reason. They not only cost the lives of tenants, but some homicidal landlords also lose their life as a result of being sentenced to death or lengthy prison terms. These 10 landlords' deeds and their outcomes demonstrate one more how often crime does not pay. Number 10. Stanley Jensen. The Ocala Star-Banner stated that Stanley Jensen's defense team informed the jury that Jensen had shot his renter, Marc Bruss, when Bruss threatened him, and that Jensen had a right to visit his rental property in Ocala, Florida. The attorneys further argued that Jensen had spotted uninvited guests at the rental house, that Bruss had not paid his rent, and that Jensen had suspected his tenant of engaging in drug activity on the rented premises. Bruss was wounded by 2 shots in the side and 4 in the back during the 6 shots that were fired. It was further reported that the defense also cited the lack of eyewitnesses and the fact that neither a crime scene reconstructionist nor the medical examiner could tell the sequence of the 6 shots. Furthermore, the renter had a high amount of methamphetamine in his system, according to the medical examiner's testimony, and the detectives failed to gather DNA or fingerprints from the machete Bruss reportedly had when Jensen was being attacked. A sheriff's deputy who was dispatched to the location prior to the 2019 shooting had advised Jensen that he was unable to evict Bruss without first notifying the court of his intention to do so. Nevertheless, Jensen had placed Bruss's possessions outside the property with the help of another tenant. The prosecution contended that there was no evidence proving Bruss was carrying a machete and that Jensen planned to murder Bruss one way or another. Jensen acknowledged that he had made several inaccurate claims regarding what had transpired. Jurors reconvened in the courtroom in April 2022, having deliberated for almost 2 hours and requesting to hear a playback of the 911 call. Jensen disagreed with the court clerk's announcement of their decision, shaking his head to show he didn't believe he had killed his renter. Jensen's sister concurred with the accused. As Jensen was taken away in handcuffs to face sentence, his mother was too distraught to talk. Number 9. Chad Allen Reed. 53-year-old Chad Allen Reed killed his renters, Joseph Soule and Jaclyn Lepird, for no apparent reason other than that he was used drugs, had not paid his rent, had not received any guests, and had not been attacked with a machete. In one instance, the landlord's loud partying kept him up at night since he couldn't bear it. A week after killing Soule, 34, and Lepird, 31, who occupied an apartment 1 floor above him, Reed confessed to an individual that he had carried out the murders and turned himself in at a nearby police station. There, the couple's reported disappearance was already the subject of an investigation. In his confession, Reed stated that he had placed the victims' bodies in a bag and placed it in the back of his vehicle after killing them in October 2020. A few days later, in an attempt to obstruct the search for the couple who went missing, he put his truck in the garage of an abandoned house close by. Detective Joel Case of the Battle Creek Police Department feels that the landlord-tenant quarrel was a contributing factor, even though the loud partying may have been the tipping point in their ongoing disagreement. According to statements made by those who knew the three, they had an ongoing dispute where they could not get along, according to Case. Number 8. James Pack. Following a snowfall in December 2012 in Biddeford, Maine, a dispute over parking places resulted in the deaths of tenants Derek Thompson, 19, and Olivia Welch, 18, as well as the life imprisonment of their landlord, James Pack. Susan Johnson, Thompson's mother, who lived, was also shot by Pack. After police were dispatched to the scene and made their intervention known, Pack broke inside the victim's flat and declared his intention to shoot his tenants. Prosecutors said that Pack had objected to the way Thompson was shoveling the driveway. Number 7. Todd Greathouse. Todd Greathouse, a resident of Webb City, Missouri, was given a life sentence without the chance of release. The 54-year-old landlord admitted in court that he was having an affair with his 61-year-old renter, Walana Anita Dunn, who threatened to tell Greathouse's wife about their trysts if he was unable to perform sexually. The Joplin Globe reported on this. Greathouse claimed that after using her restroom, he went back to the kitchen, where Dunn had placed a pistol on the table, informing the jury that he had instinctively jumped up and slapped Dunn and grabbed her by her throat, intending to stop choking her when she passed out and not to kill her. Greathouse claimed to have felt threatened. Greathouse stated that he choked her with his hands, a towel, and an electrical cord before he heard a pop. She stumbled, gulped, and spat. According to the evidence, at this time he considered the possibility that he had accidentally broken her neck. He went to down a mine shaft west of Joplin city limits to dispose of her body after failing to find a heartbeat. In her defense testimony, forensic pathologist Dr. Jane Turner informed the jury that Dunn was more vulnerable to sudden cardiac death because of her pre-existing medical issues, which included heart disease, hypertension, and an enlarged heart. She would have likely died from strangulation more quickly than a healthy person given those health issues. The pathologist clarified that it was highly probable the renter would have passed away by the time Greathouse used the lamp cord as a ligature. When Dunn's revolver was found by the police at Greathouse's place of employment, he informed them he had hidden it after her death. The jury's decision-making process took roughly 25 minutes. Number 6. Javier Ortoll. Javier Ortoll, a 79-year-old landlord in Naples, Florida, and Edward Malone, his 51-year-old renter, got into a fight over unpaid rent. According to Ortoll's attorneys, the argument resulted in Malone's death when the renter reached into the defendant's van and gave Ortoll a slug. Ortoll then shot Malone in self-defense. Ortoll shot the victim, according to the prosecution, but not in self-defense. They argued that the landlord was furious at Malone rather than afraid of him. Homicide was the manner of death. Despite conflicting testimony from witnesses, the jury accepted the prosecution's version of events and convicted Ortoll of the 2013 homicide. This was in spite of test reports, which the Orlando Sentinel said revealed contained prescription drugs for drugs and cocaine in Malone's system. That wasn't clear if the levels were enough to cause aggressive behavior, according to the paper. Number 5. Reineiro Espino Caballero. According to the Associated Press, a different landlord in South Florida, Reineiro Espino Caballero, 76, of Hialeah, and his renter, Ramon Emilio Gutierrez Castillo, 46, got into a fight over the latter's tardiness in paying rent. The landlord intended to collect the $550 in overdue rent that Castillo owed Caballero. Following their disagreement, Castillo went back to his efficient flat and secured the sliding glass door to prevent Caballero from entering. After going back to his neighbor's house, the landlord grabbed a revolver, went back to Castillo's flat, and fired through the glass, breaking it. In the ensuing altercation between the men, Caballero shot his tenant through the face. Caballero then admitted to the crimes, according to the police. The charge against him was first-degree murder. Number 4. Philip Estevez. After receiving a sentence, Brooklyn, New York resident Philip Estevez, 63, who also lived in his home and rented out rooms, was placed in a prison cell. He intended to stay there for the following 15 years in order to murder his 51-year-old tenant Luis Martinez and torment his other tenant, Ana Rodriguez, and her kids. Martinez, who owed him money for the basement room he had rented, was challenged by Estevez. Martinez was shot twice in the head and once in the chest by Estevez, who pulled out a revolver during the altercation, according to the website of the district attorney for Kings County, New York. Then Rodriguez and her husband were shown around the upstairs room by the landlord. She and her 2 kids, an 11-year-old boy and a 12-year-old girl, were alone at home at the time. They tried to hide, but Estevez also went up to them, brandishing a pipe. He smacked the girl and the mother in the head, but the boy managed to get away by jumping out the window with the intention of getting assistance. But after jumping, he shattered his foot. Luckily, his sister also made it out, running away to the closest police station and reporting the incident to the authorities. Number 3. Earl Preston Jones. The New York Times staff writer Stephen G. Bloom noted that Earl Preston Jones made a pledge to combat crime when he ran for Long Beach City Council, citing plans to increase police presence and launch a community watch initiative. When he shot 2 of his tenants, Patricia Kahn, 31, and Charles Rambert, 28, with a shotgun in the early hours of June 1982 while they were asleep, it doesn't appear that he was thinking too much about the law. The landlord said that both of his tenants were drug addicts. In an attempt to assist them, he had rented to them. The opinions of the neighbors diverged on the subject. They stated that Jones reneged on an agreement to lower the rent in exchange for carpentry work Rambert had done on the house, which is how the disagreement started. After the 2 killings, Jones pawned the shotgun and bought a one-way bus ticket to Oakland, California. But before the bus had left the station, he was taken into custody inside the car. Jones was executed on February 3, 2006, having been given a death sentence in 1985 that included a gas chamber visit. In the meanwhile, he received 4% of the vote and finished last out of 4 candidates running for municipal council. Number 2. Louis Hubrecht. Louis Hubrecht made it clear what his priorities were. Hubrecht, 68, stepped over the dying woman to tend to his building's trash after murdering his tenant librarian Barbara B. Kenna, 68, 6 times at close range, according to New York Times reporter Susan Salney. The victim's niece, Joan Valenti, expressed her thoughts on Hubrecht to the court in a statement. "It is evident to me that you are genuinely uncivilized because you stepped over a human being who was dying, my aunt, in order to get rid of the trash." In Hubrecht's recorded statement, on camera, Kenna admitted to bringing her metal luggage cart down the stairs from her penthouse apartment without using it properly, which resulted in a bang into Mr. Hubrecht's door. In response, Hubrecht unlocked his door and pulled out a .38 revolver, even if he claimed to be defending himself against her on the videotape. The landlord said that his renter had threatened to kill him and was carrying a hammer. In fact, even though Kenna was right-handed and her fingerprints were not on the gun, the shooting victim's left hand contained a hammer, according to the responding paramedics. Following the shooting, prosecutors suggested that the hammer might have been placed in Kenna's left hand. Hubrecht was given a sentence of 20 years to life in 2002, with the judge citing his age and his clear psychological inability to cope. Number 1. Wang. The landlord of the residential housing complex became enraged when his tenant refused to pay the rent, leading Wang, whose given name is not included in the Taipei Times article about him, to murder Kuo, whose surname is not mentioned. After a furious dispute between the 2 men, Wang doused Kuo with gasoline, setting the sopping tenant on fire. If lighting him on fire wasn't enough, Kuo was then chased out of the premises by Wang, who beat him with a water pipe. Wang had also unintentionally spilled gasoline into another room during the arson, which led to the spread of flames. Consequently, a female renter perished since she was unable to flee in time. Wang was accused of killing both her and Kuo, who eventually passed away in the hospital from third-degree burns covering more than 90% of his body. Due to his explosive temper, Wang killed 2 individuals and took 15 years off of his own life, the punishment he suffered for killing his tenants. And there you have it. 10 harrowing tales of landlords who crossed the line and committed the ultimate crime. These stories serve as a grim reminder of how disputes can escalate beyond imagination. At Creepshow, we strive to bring you the most captivating and unsettling true crime stories. If you found this video intriguing, be sure to give us a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another story from Creepshow. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay safe and stay vigilant.